Tuskegee Airmen, whose struggles and tragedies paved the way for desegregation of the military and provided for opportunities and equal rights of African Americans in the U.S. Army. Tuskegee Airmen struggles begin in the early 20th century, when young African Americans who aspired to become pilots were not allowed because of racism and the belief that blacks were not smart enough to become pilots. The notion that blacks were inferior to whites was a widespread belief, especially in the South, where almost everything was segregated. There was a lot of hatred of blacks in those days. In 1939, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, along with Negro newspapers and civil groups, started a campaign to allow black pilots to serve in the civilian pilot training program. They met with President Harry S. Truman, and he agreed to sponsor a bill that would allow black pilots to train in this program. In 1940, the Army Air Corps began training black pilots. They selected the Tuskegee University in Tuskegee, Alabama, to do the training. These first trainees were known as the 99 Pursuit Squadron. There were 12 men that were trained to be pilots, and only 5 made it through the entire program. Between 1941 and 1946, there were nearly 1,000 black men in 44 classes who graduated, and 355 that served in active duty as fighter pilots. The program received great recognition when First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt visited and rode in the plane with one of the airmen. The airman was C. Alfred Anderson, who was Tuskegee University Chief Instructor Pilot. In 1942, the Tuskegee trained 99 Pursuit Squadron was developed to North Africa. The Tuskegee Airmen was subjected to a lot of racial discrimination in the U.S. Army, and military leaders were hesitant to use the airmen in combat. They flew in second-hand planes which were slower and more difficult to maneuver than their counterpart planes. After a while, the 99th was moved to Italy, where they shot down 12 German fighters in 2 days. This proved that they were capable of fighting in war, and they began serving alongside white pilots of 79th Fighter Group. Airmen proved they were as good as any other group of fighter pilots during World War II. In 1944, other Tuskegee squadrons arrived in Italy and was combined with the 99th Squadron. The name was changed to the 332nd Fighter Group. After this, the pilots began flying P-51 Mustangs, and they were escorting heavy bombers during enemy raids. They painted the tails of their planes red so they could be easily identified. They earned the name Red Tails. The Tuskegee Airmen were able to fly in many different positions. Tuskegee Airmen also painted the nose of their planes red. The The Tuskegee Airmen were brave heroes who fought for their nation's freedom at a time when many U.S. citizens fought to keep black men and women from enjoying those freedoms. That was The Tuskegee Airmen was a successful experiment that helped the U.S. win the war and lead to the end of racial segregation in the U.S. military. Their example has inspired countless others to see beyond skin color and seek equality for all.